Welcome to Ghana Promise. We express economics, global health, science, and social thoughts. We comment on issues that affect the life of the ordinary person. We are apolitical and nonpartisan. We say what we see fit in the best light we see fit. It may seem to you we are taking sides. No, 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 no. We don't have that as our goal. And now, we welcome the host, Dr. Gadja, spelled capital G, E, T, capital J, A, H. This is Dr. Gadja, an economist, computer scientist, medical doctor, and global health PhD epidemiologist. I do this as a calling to help Ghana chart a course for greatness and, in the process, help Africa along the way. There are many issues we'll be discussing on this platform, and we welcome your comments, rebukes, and questions. Today's topic. Hello. Uh, Thank you. Today we want to talk about foreign exchange implications for Ghana and focusing on the US dollar. We focus on the US dollar being that it is one of the major currencies that Ghana stores up in foreign reserves or as a foreign currency asset. Now, I want to go back and talk about why the promise of Ghana. Uh, the reason why we do this is to try to educate the ordinary Ghanaian to understand the intricacies, basically the ongoings of economic factors, decisions that eventually affect their personal life. And if we understand as Ghanaians how these things happen, we can be in a better situation in supporting or being against government policy because we would have understood how that policy affects us. So that is the goal for POG. I mean, Promise of Ghana. We call it POG for short. That is the goal for POG, to be able to educate the ordinary Ghanaian, to be able to. So you realize that we use very simple language as much as we can, so that everybody can understand that. And at times we have been basically overexcited. I would say that, and the passion took the better side of us. If any cases of those, we apologize, and that is none of the intentions we have. So we talk about the foreign exchange implications for Ghana. The last time we were talking about inflation and the supply side management theory of inflation. You know, inflation is a theory that assumes full employment. So in economic terms, before inflation can actually be a factor, every economic activity is at the optimal level. All resources are being put to work, all labor is being put to work. We are at full employment. Then any jolt or disequilibrium in demand will lead to increase in prices, since supply cannot increase to take off or take over the shock or take up the shock that the increase in aggregate demand would have put on the economy. So inflation assumes a full employment state. So when a country or an economy is not in full employment, they have to do all they can to take advantage of the inflationary pressures, because as we indicated in the last time, that inflation is a call up on the economy to put more goods and services into the market. So that is one thing we have to recognize. Now, coming to talk about the actual effect of macroeconomic destabilization. I mean, basically, the inflation situation that we have in our country right now. Uh, you hear most people saying that we should go to the IMF, and I'll play you an interview that the former president Mahama had with the Voice of America. In that interview, he said that he had advised the current government to go to the IMF, and he explained why he had gone to the IMF uh, during his administration, and explained a little bit about what the IMF will do if this administration were to have gone to the IMF. One thing that I want you to take note is that he said the reason why they went to the IMF was that they had increased wages of civil servants and didn't know precisely how much they would need to do that. And so when they did that, the wage bill of Ghana increased beyond levels that they expected. In other words, they did not know how many people were on the civil service employment roll prior to deciding to increase the wages. It's an unfortunate situation, which is the problem of those who work for the president. They should have known. They should have known how many people is on the civil service payroll and be able to know exactly how much they will need to do that pay raise that they did. But here the president was saying they did not know, which is very, very sad. So those working for the presidents are those that we blame when the presidents are not doing well. They make a sloppy decision as to increase pay and then be surprised at how much they had to spend to do that. So just watch that section of the video here. Okay, so that was it. I want to also look at the effect of the price of dollar on our situation. Now, the topic is to look at the dollar, how the dollar plays. I mean, basically, how we can handle the dollar as a Ghanaian. Uh, the dollar is just like any commodity. Prices of commodities are determined by the demand and the supply of them, and so is the dollar. So the price of the dollar is determined by the demand and supply of dollar. Now, let's look at dollar. Let's take the supply of dollar. Who supplies dollar? The US government. Ghana does not supply dollar in any way. The US government is the one that supplies dollar. If Ghana has any dollar, it is part of that which the US government has supplied. So we don't, as a country, control the supply of dollar. Unlike other commodities that we may have a say in its supply, dollar, we don't have a say in the supply of dollar. All we can do is to try to do policies or put in place policies that can attract part of that supply of dollar into our economy. So we don't have anything to do with the supply of dollar. All we can do is to use policies to attract enough dollar into our economy for our imports and also as reserve in our assets. That is the supply side. I'll come to talk about reserves in assets and the rest of it. So from that side, you realize that we need dollar as for imports of goods and services from outside Ghana to Ghana, and also as a reserve currency in the portfolio of the Bank of Ghana. Let me say that is what is used to shore up our rating. I just want to say it here. I'll maybe talk later about the rating. That if you have more dollars in the Bank of Ghana, that makes it easy for us to get things bought at cheaper rates. Let me not dwell too much on that. Now go to the demand side. The demand side is where we have some effect. We are users of dollar, the Ghanaian economy. So we affect the price of dollar based on our demand for dollar. So what we can do in terms of policy is to find ways to reduce our demand for dollar to influence the price of dollar downwards. However, if we have in place policies that do not do that, but instead increase the demand for dollar, then the demand for dollar will eventually increase the price of dollar in our economy, subject to the amount of dollar supply that we can have. That is a little about the dynamics of that. And I want to make it as simple as possible, but that is how simply I could put it. So Ghana affects the price of dollar based on the demand we have for dollar. Now, for economic activity to take place in Ghana, where dollar is needed, it will be for things that we import, services that we pay foreigners for, and so on and so forth. If you look at the supply of dollar in the Ghanaian economy, it will have to be affected by several factors, including factors in the US, the supplier of dollar. Now, in this present time, we know US has some level of inflation. So in tackling the US inflation, the US government has been putting in place measures to reduce the available amount of dollar in the world. Actually, the target is in the US system, but as we all know, if the US reduces it, it's going to affect the amount of dollar that is available to other countries also. So the Federal Reserve of the US has been reducing the amount of dollar that is made available by increasing interest rates, which is an incentive for people to bring more dollar into the Federal Reserve because, or into banks, because they'll have more for the dollar in terms of interest rates, and makes borrowing of dollar more expensive. So more will be put in the banks and not made available for the use, not made available for use for transactions. So as that goes on, the available dollar that is made available for use for transaction is reduced because the Federal Reserve is basically collecting all the dollar and making it unavailable for use based on the interest rate policy they are running. That is one side of it. Two, the situation of the global trends in terms of petrol and all that means that Ghana has to spend more money. Basically, petroleum products are high on the market. Those prices are determined by the world market. The price is high due to wars and all the other factors that go into it, hydrogen and all that. So with a higher price of petroleum, which although Ghana produces, but Ghana doesn't have access to what it even produces, it's kind of exported outside. We have to buy from the world market, and so we have to pay the price that is paid on the world market, and the price has gone up. OPEC met the other day to increase the price by reducing supply. So now Ghana will need more dollar because it's something that is we are buying from the world market. We need dollar is the most acceptable currency on the world market for transactions. So we need more dollars to get the same amount of petroleum products that we used to get of oil. Because a barrel of oil price has changed so much, almost more than doubled. So instead of, let's say, $100 to buy 1 barrel of oil for Ghana, Ghana now needs more than $100 to buy the same amount of oil. So you realize that the need or our demand for dollar has increased. And if our demand for dollar increases, certainly, given the supply of dollar, which is also being reduced, the impact of these two effects will lead to a more than doubling of the price of dollar in the Ghanaian economy. And that is exactly what is happening. That is exactly what is happening. We have those who are hedging because they anticipate a higher price for the dollar in future. So they hedge against the Ghana currency, dump it. There are those who play in the currency market, and there is those dollars that we need for imports, such as petroleum and other imports, which has doubled based on the price of imports, especially on the world market. I'm not talking to the price, the secondary price as a result of the increase in the dollar. I'm talking about the price as it were on the world market. Because there's a secondary price increase, which is of all other products that we import just because of the rise of the dollar, which is not because of the price of the commodity, but because of the rise in the price of the dollar, which has made things that we import more expensive. Not because of themselves, but because we have to exchange more cities for them now than before. I hope you understand that part of it. So we have imports, then we have those who hedge in foreign currency, and then we have those who play in the currency market. There is one professor called Professor Steve Hanke, whose statements some of Ghana newspapers and media have been publishing. And most of his statements has been negative towards Ghana. He's talked about the president president dreaming. Ghana's inflation is more than 149%. Ghana is going down and on all that. Talk like that only helps in taking Ghana down. Because, like I said in one of the recordings, that economic decisions are based on perception. And so when people like Professor Henke, this guy is supposed to be a John Hopkins professor in economics, and you will expect that a professional as that will behave uh, more wisely, as to understand that the effects of his statements go very deep in affecting actual lives, and it's not about games. But it's Ghana media that decides to put him on and try to use him, whether for politics or whatever, I don't know. But he says everything, and they take it and hook on it, and present it to Ghana people. Those things are bad. The main reason why it is bad is that this same Professor Henke, like I'll show you a few things. This guy plays on the currency market. He buys currencies and sells currency. So he doesn't talk with a mind to benefit Ghana. He's talking with a mind to benefit himself. Let me give you an example. For instance, this guy who is on the currency board, who is trading in currency, this Henke guy, if he's able to talk down Ghana currency, then he's able to pay less for Ghana currency, or able to sell dollar for more, because he's trading currency. Some of the things he has said is this. Like I said some of them to you. Like you read it yourself, you see there. And there's some of the things he said. Look at it. Professor Henke, inflation figures contradicts that of the Ghana Statistical Service, which measures inflation for September at 37.2. Whatever the figures are, nobody had called Henke basically to come and advise on Ghana economy or any of these things. So we Ghanaians have to understand that this guy is doing it for himself. He has called President passes the begging bowl. He said in Ghana, President Akufo-Addo passes the begging bowl to the IMF. Ghana passed 17 IMF programs. A new program won't work. Today, I measure Ghana's inflation at 47%. That is his Twitter account. That's what he said. Now, when you look at the guy himself, who is Professor Henke? He's a currency trader. And I'll read to you something that he put on his website, which is Cato Institute. They said Professor Henke is a world-renowned currency trader. That's what he does. So we should not take it that dude is helping Ghana by making the statements that we so gladly publish. The guy is just helping himself. Could you imagine, as he talks down Ghana economy? Let me give you just an example of the meaning of these things. As he talks down Ghana economy, think about it. Let's say he has a project that he's doing in Ghana, and the project is going to cost him 100 million US dollars. As he talks down based on the currency, based on the exchange rate, the program is happening in Ghana. It's costing him 100 million US dollars based on the exchange rate. As he talks down Ghana's currency, now Professor Hankey wouldn't have to pay that amount of money because the value of Ghana's currency has reduced because he talked it down. So he has to pay far, far less, being successful in reducing the value of Ghana's currency. And we have to understand this. One thing we have to understand that nobody acts to help any other person. So if somebody is acting, myself on here, I'm trying to help the Ghana people to understand, but however, I'm trying to have a benefit of people thinking of me in a particular way. The same way, he is doing it to profit himself. He's doing it for his own profit. And the Ghanaian people have to understand that. Look at this. Hankey is a well-known currency and commodity trader. Hankey is a well-known currency and commodity trader. So that's what a guy does. So we taking it as somebody trying to analyze Ghana's economy and tell us it's wrong. Look at another thing that he put on his Twitter. Since January 2022, the Burmese has depreciated 36.84 against the US dollar, which is why Myanmar takes the 7th spot in this week's currency watch list. So long as the junta remains in power, the yacht will remain in the tank. This is Hankey about another economy. And then look at this, Hankey's currency watch list. He has Zimbabwe, Cuba, Ghana. Ghana is the third on the list. So this guy is doing this for profit, for himself. So we have to be careful. Those he belongs to those who hedge against the Ghana economy or the Ghana currency. So he's benefiting from speaking negatively about the Ghana economy. I mean, I don't think it is good if we continue to just put anybody that talks bad on Ghana. I mean, the thing is that the media houses that are publicizing these things, we are making the situation worse by making people think about the economy as in a worse shape and going to be in a much worse shape. So people begin to hedge against it. Even we see traders doing that, selling their products for a future price that they think it will be and not the current price. And all that keeps going on, increasing prices of goods and services in the Ghana economy. So for instance, when we look at managing the dollar, like I've said, it's these three areas. We need the dollar for imports. Those who hedge against the dollar, we must discourage, or we should be actively, Ghana government actively promoting the Ghana cedi, such that those who hedge against the Ghana cedi will not be able to succeed. So we should be actively promoting the Ghana cedi. And then thirdly, as we had said, is to find ways in playing in the currency market in a way not to allow the devaluation of the cedi any further. Now, I want to just, based on what I said we should handle, basically the way I propose that we should handle this IMF negotiation and onward, Ghana should be trying to look at supply side management of the inflation. Let me give you a scenario. Assuming things are as they are, we know that the increase in petrol is leading to increase in transportation, leading to increase in food prices, and then on and on and on. After that, there will be increases in wages or wage agitation, both in the private sector and in the public sector. Pretty much everything will be at a standstill as people try to agitate for these things, affecting the GDP, basically shrinking our GDP, because time to produce is on the streets demonstrating. And to manage all these demonstrations, we need dollar. Even probably to pay the civil servants, we need more dollars. Our proposal is that instead of doing that, subsidize petrol on the other side. Go into the market, negotiate the prices of things to fall down, to fall drastically down, because the petrol probably by 50% is a ripple. You see prices fall down much more than 50%, probably some 75. So in essence, you've gotten all prices to fall down, to come down. The economy begins to pick up. Instead of a contraction in the economy, you have an expansion. So we can be able to tackle the next problem that is ahead. However, if we shrink, we've taken debt from the IMF, which we will owe. A shrinking economy produces less revenue for government to meet its obligations. So when we shrink, there is a higher likelihood that we will default on our debts, even including the IMF debt, however long term it may be structured. So that I don't think is the right way. Beyond that, the people are not happy. But the other way, prices come down, the people are happy. They have more money in their pocket, they save, they do other things. Production increases, more investment into other areas. The Ghana economy has expanded. That is the kind of benefit we want to have from inflation. Now, as we go over time, we try to increase the actual expansion in our reserves in terms of gold, precious minerals, commodities, whatever, to expand our reserves. Now, on one side, you realize that when the prices are coming down like that, the value of the cedi is increased. So, although the cedi is in a different market compared to the dollar in terms of price, and the demand and supply of the cedi is different from the demand and supply of dollar. However, the increase in the value of the cedi perceptionally will lead to influencing the cedi to increase against the dollar. That is perceptionally. Theoretically, they are in separate markets. But since the cedi is now able to command more goods and services, the value of the cedi will have increased. That's the inherent value of the cedi would have increased in the minds of the Ghanaian, which invariably will lead to some decrease in the value of the dollar vis-a-vis the cedi. So on the foreign exchange side, that is something that we can see from a policy to subsidize petrol. And so the second round of purchase of petrol will be cheaper as that happens, and incrementally so. On the other level, we can begin to increase our assets, that I just mentioned earlier on. Now, when we increase the assets of gold reserves that we have, it might not be that we are using gold to pay for goods and services, which we can do though, but that is not what I suggest. But at least it leads to the rating agencies trying to increase our rating. Like Fitch just said, Ghana might default on 50%. There's a 50-50 chance that Ghana might default on its debt obligations. If we have a reserve, we have the commodities, we have these metals, we have these things around. If we increase them tremendously, these rating agencies will revalue or review our rating and will rate us higher. A higher rating means that you get to borrow money at much cheaper rates of return. Much cheaper interest rates, sorry. So if you borrow at much cheaper interest rates, that means you can do more at less cost. So it makes it easy for us to be able to borrow dollar or even have a standing order with the US whereby we can take dollar anytime we have some instability in the market of the foreign currency and play in the currency market to make sure that our city is valued at a rate that we want. Not to take it lower, play in the market that way. Anytime we have shortage, we ask for the US for money. We play in it. If them we have over, we pay them back. So we have a standing order, basically like a credit line. So that we don't have a situation whereby the demand for dollar is a shock on the economy. So we don't get to repeat these situations because our reserve is full with commodities and metals and what have you. So with a better credit standing, our country is made better off. The money we take for the IMF, we use it for the things that actually bring profit, bring great returns. And at the end of it, you see that our economy has expanded. Instead of going for austere measures. With the expansion of our economy and the dollar being at a better rate that we want, we can begin to look at our long-term debt or short-term debt and restructure them such that we are having better terms of borrowing. Renegotiate some of the debts, pay some of them down, and reduce short-term debt and take long-term debts at better rates and better terms of payment. Now, one thing that I want us to also look at as we do this is to find a way to reduce import duties or eliminate them completely. Instead, use standards and make strong our institutions such as the FDA. Make sure that the commodities and things that come into the market are wholesome and quality standard. But take off the duties such that the Ghanaian people have the advantage of enjoying the economics of the comparative advantages of other countries in producing the goods and services that they produce. In that doing, the living standard of the Ghanaian is improved. Now, when we do that, we should, on the other side, try to find some commodities or products that we import that we think we can take off the import list and produce them locally. That's better comparative advantage. These are the things that I see the Ghana people can do to improve our lot. And those are the things that I prescribe as a physician taking care of the patient Ghana. You see, there are various steps that there are more policies that I cannot disclose here because of time and other constraints or being able to explain for the ordinary Ghanaian to understand. But these are the things. So you eventually realize that the economy is doing better, that people are happy. That's the bottom line. The people are happy. Their standard of living is good. They eat better products. If foreign products think they can compete on the market, they should come in and compete locally and have the prices go down. Let's not use tariffs and duties to prevent that kind of competition. That kind of competition gives the Ghanaian a better standard of living. Some way we will be able to reduce even health problems from that. And rather, the government tried to strengthen institutions to regulate businesses, say that businesses are not taking undue advantage over the Ghanaians. Try to crush monopolies, bring antitrust law. There are a lot of monopolies in Ghana. We are just not recognizing these trade unions. They are operating like monopolies. I mean, they have us by the neck. We're not recognizing that. So on the currency, on the foreign exchange currency side, that is what we need to do. That is what we need to do to bring the Ghana currency at some parity level to the US dollar. That's it.